Okay, I think it's recording now. Yeah, and I apologize. Oh, dang it! I didn't want it to do that. I apologize for the noise. I'm at home and my kids are playing video games, so if it gets a little loud, I'm sorry. So you want to do the same thing that we were doing before. Here it says a surprise gift that Paco bought for Pablo caused some drama. Retell the sequence of events, and this is 7-40. By rewriting each of the following sentences using indirect and direct object pronouns to avoid repetition. However, be sure to write the name of each subject to avoid confusion. Okay, so you notice how some of the examples from before, okay, so unlike in the other one where there was some confusion, it only asked you to plug in the pronouns. This time you have to include often your indirect object so that there is no confusion about, for example, here, Paco le compró unas entradas a Pablo. You're going to want to include the subject so that we avoid confusion as to for whom they were bought. So let me check one thing. Okay, actually I'm not sure why they have that there because I went and checked the answers and they are, because I wanted to know whether they were putting the direct object, the actual noun, the name in, or if they were putting in pronouns, and they didn't do it at all, so we're not going to worry with it. So what you're going to do here is you're going to identify your verb again. The only difference is this time these are all in the preterite, whereas they were in the present before. So this is where Spanish starts to build upon itself. So here's the verb. So this is Paco le compró unas entradas a Pablo. So this is bought. Who bought? Who did the buying? That would be Paco. He's your subject. Okay. What did he buy? The what is your direct object. That's the entradas. Okay. So what we're getting ready to do is replace our what was bought and for whom it was bought. So Paco there was buying, Paco did the buying, what he bought were tickets, and for whom he bought them were Paco, which is represented by le and Paco. A Pablo. Because in Spanish, whenever you have an indirect object, even if they're stated in your statement, you still have to put the pronoun. So you're going to see it twice. So it's basically saying Paco bought him Paco bought tickets for him for Pablo, which in English we would either say for him or for Pablo, but in Spanish you either say for him or for him for Pablo. You have to say it twice. Okay. So when we're rewriting this out, we do need to start with our subject. Who did the buying? Paco, right? So we do Paco. I like to go on with the verb because what did Paco do? He did the buying. So I'm going to put back in my verb. I'm not needing to change anything. Then, so Paco bought, in English we would say the tickets. The tickets are your direct object. Entradas is feminine. So your options for he bought them for him, the them would either be los or las because entradas is feminine. So I would put he bought them, meaning the tickets, for Pablo, which would be le, for him. Okay? And like in the last video, what I was trying to say is that when you write these, your indirect has to go in front of your direct. So we're going to put your indirect first, and then all of these have to get moved to go in front of a conjugated verb because there is no infinitive to which to attach them, and there is no present participle, and there's no affirmative command. So they have to go here. And again, we've got a situation where our indirect and our direct both start with an L. Whenever your indirect starts with an L and your direct starts with an L, they want you to change your indirect to se. Okay? So Paco se las compró. Okay? In the next one, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to identify our verb, which is dijo. Okay? Who did the telling? Paco, that's your subject. What did he tell? He told the surprise. That's your direct object. And when you have 3 of these, often your direct object is going to be the thing, and the other person in your sentence is going to be the indirect object, and they'll also be preceded by a personal ah. So to whom was the surprise told? It was told to Pablo. That's your indirect. So then we need to replace these. Sorpresa would be replaced with it, which would be la. Your indirect is going to be the person to who the surprise was told, him, which is Pablo. That's going to be le. So when we write this back out, we're going to say Paco told it to him. Okay? So our subject is Paco. Paco told it meaning what was told, it, the sorpresa, which would become la, to him. Him would be le. And if you remember, the indirect needs to go first. So I'm going to move this around. Okay? And then all of this needs to get moved in front of dijo. Okay? And again, what I've got is I have got le and la. I've got my indirect and my direct starting with an L. So when that happens, you have to change your indirect to se. Paco se la dijo. Pablo no quiso aceptar las entradas. So again, we identify our verb. Who didn't want to accept the tickets? That would be Pablo. What did he, actually. Okay, there's the verb. Sorry, it's a helping verb. He didn't want to accept. So who didn't want to accept them? It's Pablo. That's the subject. What did he not want to accept are the entradas. That's your direct object. I don't see an indirect in this one, so you're only dealing with a direct object this time. Entradas would become las. And what you're going to say is Pablo did not want to accept them. Pablo did not want he didn't want to accept them. Okay, now, because we do have an infinitive, you can leave it like that. See how I didn't put a space? I wrote it together. The las can go attached to the aceptar, or it can go in front of the conjugated verb, which is the quiso, and I'm just going to write it all in, well, it could also be Pablo no las quiso aceptar. Okay, so it could be either way. Pablo le pagó las entradas a Paco. Okay, so what's the verb? Okay, so Pablo le pagó las entradas a Paco. Pablo paid for the tickets for Paco. Okay, so you identify your verb, which is pagó. Who did the paying? It would be Pablo. That's your subject. What did he pay for? That's your direct object, las entradas. For whom did he pay them? That would be Paco. So again, you see that person. Whoops, I want it to be purple. Paco. Okay, so we're going to replace Paco with le, because what we're going to say is Pablo paid for them for him. And the entradas is going to become las. So we want to say Pablo paid for them for him. So Pablo paid for them, which would be the entradas, for him, which would be le. Remember that when we have double object pronouns, that the indirect needs to come before the direct, so I'm going to move this around. Then all of these have to go in front of pagó, because in this time I don't have an indirect object pronoun. I don't have an infinitive. And then my indirect and my direct both start with an L, so when that situation arises, you have to change it to se. Pablo se las pagó.